What's good, guys, and welcome back to the channel for another video on Marvel Contest of Champions. This video is going to focus on characters that we're more than likely going to see in game in 2019. This hasn't got any relation to my puzzle video, which covered about 5 to 7 champions that we could see. Obviously there's 12 months of the year, so there's probably going to be about 24 to potentially about 27 new characters entered into the game next year. And we're going to draw inspiration from cinematic releases and at the same time old publications. So let's try and find out who's going to be entered next year. As we know, in 2018 we've seen some real diverse and very obscure champions, but ones that have had great abilities, great defensive capabilities and amazing offense capabilities, which have astounded the community, and it only means that in 2019 we should see great champions added into the game and hopefully a lot more popular ones. To date, Kabam have only put in a small amount of characters from their Contest of Champions comic book series. And yes, they don't have to release all of the ones that they did feature in that particular comic book, and no, they don't have a direct affiliation, but there is association by the story that they created. And 4 such characters that they haven't put in the game yet are Nigel Higgins, who is essentially the British version of the Punisher, Amy Han, who is White Fox, and to give you an idea of powers, she's able to have like heightened senses, claws, pretty decent character. There's also William Foster, aka Goliath, and well, it does exactly what it says on the tin. The guy gets to a Goliath stature, kind of like Ant-Man, and this kind of links to like Pym particles, which is cool, so it would be great to see a character like that in the game. And the final one I want to bring to the table is Ares. Personally, I don't think now this will be a character that we put into the game, and I think it's just too reminiscent of Aegon. Based on the fact that Ares was quite prominent in the Contest of Champions comic book, I just see the likeness too much similar to Aegon to be put in this year. More than likely he could be in 2020. So yeah, an amazing fighter, great war tactics, regenerative ability. I would like to see him in at some point, but I just think it's been too soon since Aegon, and the kind of likeness or kind of story arcs and the way the kind of the gladiatorial thing. Yeah, it's just too much the same. Too much for 1 year apart. Let's now turn our attention to Marvel movies in 2019. We've got Captain Marvel, which starts off the year, followed up by Avengers Endgame. We've then got Spider-Man Far From Home, and then after that we've got some mutant movies. I don't think these are going to play a big part in stuff that Marvel Contest of Champions will be doing and what Kabam will look to kind of push out story-wise. I do think we'll have a mutant-based event. We seem to have one, maybe in some cases 2 a year. So it would be nice to see some representation from my favourite class and my favourite type of viewing for Marvel, which is mutants. Now, what characters are going to be associated? Well, Captain Marvel, I think we're probably going to get a Skrull, or we're going to get Queen of the Skrulls, some sort of link there with that, a unique character, and at the same time, maybe a character associated with something else. Kabam like to either associate them both at the same time with one thing or none at all, and it's a very obscure reference between each of them. It'd be quite exciting to see what it could be. It could be Captain Mar-vell as associated with Skrulls. It could be completely unrelated. It will be interesting to see how they link it, but those are my picks there. With the release of Avengers Endgame, as you know in the puzzle video, I was pretty darn set on it being Ronin, and I still think that is going to be the case. I'd be excited to see a character which could put immense amounts of bleed in and be a fantastic skill champion. Intense amounts of criticals, that is what I predict from that character when it's put in. It doesn't seem that there's going to be another kind of key character, and yeah, it will be Endgame, so there will be time travel for this, but all the main characters that could be associated with the game and with the film are pretty much in the game, unless they create one of these kind of Infinity War versions, like it's going to be Endgame version of Iron Man Endgame armor. That could be a thing, and it could be even like Black Widow Endgame. You know, you could even have Hulk Endgame, because there could be some stuff with him. There could even be like a Thor Endgame. It's like there's so many options available for the kind of film related armor, so do look out for maybe Kabam putting that second obscure character in order to kind of pad that out. And maybe it's a case it could be a 2-month event, similar to how it was this year. Next up and on to Spider-Man Far From Home. As you can see by this image here, this is meant to be Jake Gyllenhaal, and he is in the Mysterio armor. It seems fairly likely to add this character in. This is a character we haven't seen in the whole kind of Spider-Verse type thing, especially with the Tobey Maguire version and even with the Andrew Garfield version. We didn't see Mysterio at all. So it's good to see a new character in the Spider-Verse being put in, but at the same time, will we see this in game? I think it looks like a fairly likely thing. And what would be the accompanying character? This could be one of those, is Kabam going to put in one that's not related, is related? If it was related, I would probably say a character that's a little bit obscure like Sandman, or maybe it was a case that they'll just put Lizard in. Either way, they may even then say, well, we're going to put something that's applicable to the story arc of maybe Act 6, which could pinpoint someone from the Fantastic Four, and maybe in line with the story that's going on with Silver Surfer, potentially, and it's like speculation, rumor, Galactus. I still got my thoughts that it could be Galactus as the final point for Act 6, which could be exciting and could see a lot of the characters of this year turning that way. This then leads me on to logic, and logic would dictate if we're talking about Silver Surfer, if we're talking about Galactus, then we've got to mention Fantastic Four in some sort of capacity. It is pretty much a dead set we're going to get Silver Surfer, so I'm not going to even talk too much about that. With him being sort of teased in this 4th year anniversary, with it, you know, being, oh yeah, Fantastic Four and him, then yeah, that's pretty cool. But these guys have got to factor in some shape or form, and I'd probably say that we'd get one for every 3 months. So yeah, look out for that. Once every 3 months, a Fantastic Four character being put in. And with this, there could be some accompaniment to this. And in particular, the whole community has been shouting out for a long time for Doctor Doom. 4 years of asking for it and him to be delivered, which does put a lot of pressure on Kabam to deliver. But I hope that they will stick true to him being, you know, overpowered, but overpowered from the point of view that the player base can really latch onto him and kind of output some amazing damage. And I suspect there's going to be some pretty killer synergies that accompany these characters, as well as a character like Doctor Doom. And now we move our attention onto the random prediction section, where we've got Beta Ray Bill here. And, you know, he was actually teased to be in the game with the hammer being kind of put in, and people were going, is he going to be put in? But he's not the only one that was teased. Apocalypse's belt was actually in one of the collector's cases, as well as the other one being Stormbreaker. So it was quite interesting to see him not being put in this year, as well as Beta Ray Bill. And as we knew with the release of Bishop and as well as Sabretooth, there was a list of different mutant characters that we could expect to see. One of those was Mr. Sinister, a character myself that I'd really love to see. Followed up by this super mega level mutant, Legion. That hair is amazing. I so would love to see that in game. And for those who don't know who Legion is, there's a great TV show that is out. It's called Legion. That's been renewed for a 3rd season. And I didn't think it'd get a 2nd season due to the fact it had bad ratings. But if you want to learn more about that character, I strongly suggest to watch that show. And for those that don't realise, that's Charles Xavier's son. I'd really like to see a character, as I've said in previous videos, like Wiccan, that breaks down barriers and at the same time allows people to get really inspired around a really strong and unique character. But also fan favourites like Kitty Pryde, which would be great because you'd be able to create a synergy potentially with Colossus and a lot of other mutants, and at the same time with, you know, big strides that they've made with characters like Ghost and the whole kind of like phasing thing. It does mean that there's promise for a character like this. We could even see the same for a character like Quicksilver being put into the game. Another character that the community have called out for a long time to have in the game. But don't be surprised to see characters that are a bit obscure. For example, Genis Vell. This was a character that we thought we were getting in place of the champion, but at the same time could be another character in association with the Captain Marvel film being released. As we all know, Kabam don't really go exactly close to stuff going on with the movies. There's always a character close to the movies and at the same time more of an obscure character to then come in for that month. But there's one character that I'd really like to see at some point, and this is my own kind of like personal one, is a character that could potentially just obliterate anything in the contest. More likely this will end up being a boss at some point, and this is the champion Kalok. This character is off the scale with power and literally will decimate anything in its path. So yeah, having a character like this in game would be pretty cool, but it's always good to understand the more obscure ones, and make sure to keep subscribed to the channel because when new characters are released, we will talk about the comic book history and also bits of information so you learn a bit about the character that you're using, because it's nice to learn a little bit. We're fighting against characters and with characters that we don't really know, so it's nice to learn a bit at the same time. There we have it, guys. That has been my video on champions that we will probably see in 2019, but I could be completely wrong. What are your thoughts? Leave them in the comment section below about characters that you think are actually going to be in 2019. I'm going to leave the list in the description below and then revisit it next year and see if I was right, if I was wrong. I did get a few right last year, so I was happy about that, but predominantly they were all wrong. So we'll see what Kabam have in store for us. If you enjoyed the video, hit that like button and subscribe for more Marvel Contest of Champions based content. I've been RichTheMan and I shall catch you in the next one. Bye bye for now.